1561 Nuremberg, Germany. All this object came from the sun, battled each other over Nuremberg. Many of them fell to the ground and evaporated. Then the rest of them all of them went back in through the sun into another who knows where.
The miniaturist Hans Glaser illustrated the Nuremberg sighting of 1561. Years later, the Basel Gazette reported that at the hour of sunrise, many big black balls were seen in the air, traveling at great speeds toward the sun, then crashing into one another as if they were fighting. A great number of them became red and inflamed before being extinguished. Closer to the 20th century, we find more specific accounts of weird airships. But not until 1947 was the popular term of flying saucer coined, when Kenneth Arnold asserted that the fantastic phenomena he had witnessed must be manufactured objects from outer space. Photographs of UFOs flood in from all over the world. Many are hoaxes, like this picture of a hubcap. But the public is on the verge of panic. The U.S. Air Force instigates a commission of inquiry, Project Blue Book. A bulky report is published. Its conclusion? The UFO phenomenon is not worthy of scientific investigation. According to the Air Force, all UFOs can be accounted for in terms of man-made objects or natural occurrences. A lenticular cloud can look like a flying saucer.
Yeah, right.
Solar winds, not to mention lightning balls and the like. Is crisscrossed continually with aircraft, weather balloons, space research devices, barium clouds. But what should we believe when there seems to be no available logical explanation for the claims of reliable witnesses? This is the question Dr. J. Allen Hynek began to ask himself. Dr. Hynek is an astronomer. While acting in his official capacity as scientific advisor to the U.S. Air Force, he found himself obliged to revise his attitude to UFOs drastically. This device is certainly food for the imagination. But man-made objects move in a predictable fashion. Balloons, for instance, follow the prevailing wind. When in doubt, an investigator can check with the Meteorological Office for the dates and times of balloon launchings and for details of wind directions. More recently, space rockets have begun to make spectacular re-entries into the atmosphere. Obviously, it is not hard to be fooled. Yet, there remain a good 100,000 reports of UFO sightings which continue to baffle scientists. Generally adopted. Firstly, we have UFOs observed from far away. These may be further divided into lights seen at night, objects which have been detected by radar as well as being observed. Here is a good example of a daylight disk photographed by Mr. and Mrs. Trent in 1950. Dr. Hynek's method of analysis gives predominance to sightings corroborated by more than one witness. The documents which you will see now were almost all confirmed by several observers, sometimes completely independent of one another. A strikingly similar UFO was snapped in 1954 by a French pilot. This film is a classic of its kind. Let's take another look at those luminous balls in slow motion. This document has been examined by various experts. Their carefully weighed conclusion is that the shining spheres could not possibly be aircraft reflecting the sun, nor any other known objects. A remarkable number of reports come from highly responsible people. In this case, several air traffic controllers observed a nocturnal light through binoculars. It proceeded to split in two, and then to perform aerial acrobatics, apparently oblivious to the strong wind which was blowing. Other UFO witnesses include radar technicians, pilots, police and army officers, astronauts and scientists, even astronomers. These nocturnal lights in boomerang formation were observed sweeping over a small town by several separate groups of people. Here's another film from the wave of flying saucer sightings which continued through the 1950s. It was shot by a Navy photographer. No logical explanation for the white discs has ever been found. The vertical bar was printed onto the film by the Air Force to facilitate analysis of the object's flight angles. The Air Force added these views of seagulls as an explanation, yet the sunlight flickers violently on the wings of the birds, and the flight patterns have little in common. The comparison does not help us to identify the phenomenon. Above all, the main witness is adamant that the spheres he observed bore no resemblance to anything he had previously seen during his career as an aerial photographer. This frame is all that remains of a film shot by Corporal Ralph Mayer and confiscated by the Air Force. The UFO in this publicity photograph of a Martin B-57 prototype was only picked up on processing. We can use the same photo to illustrate the famous 1952 case of the American base at Davis-Monthan. Two bright discs intercepted a B-36 and stayed in formation with it for 20 seconds. The terror-stricken crew requested permission to land immediately. 9 members of base personnel also witnessed the UFOs from the ground. The official report on this case disappeared mysteriously. Government representatives have often gone as far as suppressing UFO evidence, but the exact scale of the cover-up operation is hard to judge.
Santa Catalina Island. Catalina Islands.
This Brazilian Navy vessel was on an oceanographic research mission. 48 witnesses observed the UFO from the deck. It had a metallic appearance with a halo of greenish phosphorescent vapor. The Brazilian government guaranteed the authenticity of the photographs and stood behind the witnesses.
Bad picture. Oh.
30 people observed this disk in New Mexico. The object was also picked up on radar. The number of witnesses is of paramount importance when considering the authenticity of a UFO photograph. When the photographer was on his own, as in this case, we have only his word. According to Rex Heflin, the dome left behind a ring of smoke, which he was able to photograph. Two good color photographs now. In each case, there were 6 witnesses. UFOs do not always look like spaceships. The variety of shapes, colors, and textures is extraordinary. The pulsating lights illustrated in this animation sequence suggest the presence of a strong magnetic field. Many researchers consider that the propulsion system of UFOs may be linked to their ability to create an electromagnetic field.
Now we're talking. Electromagnetic vehicle, EMV. Dr. Very good. That's correct.
It is 1965. Ed White is the first American to walk in space.
Oh my God, look at that. Look at the sky structure.
During the space program, many photographs of UFOs were taken. Unfortunately, however, these NASA documents are not accompanied by circumstantial reports.
Hell no.
Astronauts Jim McDivitt, Frank Borman, and Neil Armstrong openly claimed that they had seen UFOs in space, as well as several others, including Russian cosmonauts. In many cases, NASA could not come up with any explanation.
Look at the walls behind Earth. Electromagnetic walls.
Also in 1965, a Canadian film board crew happened to be on the spot when this mysterious object appeared in the sky. It is the clouds and the camera which are moving. The object remained stationary and was seen by dozens of people over a period of several hours. Its size was fantastic. Nobody has been able to identify it. Abruptly, it disappeared as if it had swung into another dimension.
To the sky structure, you dumbass.
We are still in the Canadian West. One evening in July, 3 men were returning home from a weekend devoted to mineral prospecting. Suddenly, an object appeared in the sky. Warren Smith took 2 photos. The first one shows the classical flying saucer shape of 2 pie plates, one on top of the other. Then the object went out of sight behind trees to reappear rising vertically